I'm Mario Martinez Jr., CEO and founder of Ingresso, and we are the creators of flymessage.io, the free personal writing assistant and text expander application. On each episode of this podcast, you will hear from sales leaders, practitioners, and influencers to help you grow your sales numbers at scale. So, get your pen and paper or iPad and keyboard and start taking notes as you're now listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Modern Selling Podcast. And I bring you another amazing guest that I'm excited to have on my show, my friend, Mr. Doug Dvorak, who is the founder and managing principal of the Sales Coaching Institute. And I'm excited because we're going to spend some time talking about best practices around hiring strategies and attracting and retaining great sales talent, compensation plans. And since we're here in our 7th season, thank you for all of you listening in to the podcast. Since we are here, we're going to spend some time helping you to accelerate now your goals as sales leaders and sales reps. So, Doug, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Mario. Happy New Year, and it's a high honor and privilege to be on this podcast with your listeners.
Fantastic. So do me a favor, Doug. Some people may not know you. Some people might know you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're doing at the Sales Coaching Institute. And then I've got a very special question for you.
Great. Thanks, Mario. I was a professional sales representative for about 15 years, and I was promoted into sales leadership, primarily in the IT space. I sold data communication products. I was in the first inning of the internet with a web browser company, and then got into services business about 1998 with IBM Global Services as a sales leader. And then the last part of my active selling and leading global sales teams was selling manufacturing enterprise software to John Deere auto manufacturers, tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers. And I always had a great respect, love, and passion for training, selling, and leading sales teams, and wanted to quit my day gig in corporate America. And that's when I launched the Sales Coaching Institute in 2005. And today we have a staff of about 10 sales consultants and leaders that work with clients primarily in North America, but in Western Europe and in Asia. And we really help organizations in 3 areas. The 3 pillars of our business is 1, interim or fractional sales leadership, where we have a bench of strong sales leaders that'll come in and fill that stopgap for a period of time. The other is sales coaching, one-on-one, one-to-many, entry-level, mid-level, and senior executives, and live trainings and keynotes.
Fantastic, man. I'm excited to get into some great content here. Obviously, you've got a depth of knowledge and expertise. But before we get into some of the real in-depth components, do me a favor. Everybody wants to know. Tell us something that nobody knows, even if they're looking at any or all of your social profiles that you haven't told anybody.
Well, the big news is in 2024, this year, I'm going to space.
Whoa, wait a minute. Space?
Space.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So there's a company in Tucson called Worldview Space Adventures, has 6 spaceports, some very cool locations around the planet. Great Barrier Reef, the Machu Picchu in Peru, lost city of the Incas, the Great Wall of China, and in Arizona at the Grand Canyon. I'm taking off from the Grand Canyon. So we go up about 150,000 feet. We're above the atmosphere. We can see the curvature of the Earth. We don't pass the carbon line where we experience weightlessness. But the cool thing about it is you get to see our planet like some of the astronauts did when they took that famous photo from the moon of the Earth. But the really cool thing is you go for a Planet 101 boot camp for 5 days where they bring in all these incredible thought leaders on flora, fauna, climatology, and how what we are doing, man, is affecting that. And then you get to go up and see the planet. It's about 2.5 hours up, fly around for about 4.5 hours, and then 2 to 2.5 hours down. So I'm really excited.
Wow. I actually have never even heard of something like that. That is so cool. Where did you find out about that?
Well, I had been kicking the tires on, Virgin, Musk, and Bezos, but it's $500,000. And, I can't write a check for that amount. But the really cool thing about Worldview Ventures that I found out, I don't know if any of your viewers or you saw about 6 or 7 years ago, Red Bull sponsored Felix Baumgartner. He went up about 100,000 feet and jumped and free fell to earth. Well, there was a Google executive who wanted to break that record. They engaged Worldview Space Tourism, and he did it. So that sort of piqued my interest, and I know the technology was vetted and it would be relatively safe. That's how I found out about it. And last January, I went to their space camp, and I'm getting prepped for a November or December 2024 takeoff.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I'll ask you offline how much that costs, because that sounds super cool. But that is pretty awesome, and I can't visualize what the Earth would look like if you're not in outer space, but you get to see the curvature of the Earth. Like, I got to see some pictures or a website of that, because I'm not envisioning, like, if you're not in the black part of space where the zero gravity, but you're somewhere else, like, how do you see the Earth? Like, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, the pod is really cool, pressurized, really a lot of windows, and the technology and the safety has been vetted, especially after the Titanic disaster. So,
yeah, I heard about that. Was a very unfortunate situation, unfortunately. Well, very, very cool. Thanks for sharing that. And you are officially the first person to say that you're going up into not outer space, but I guess it's called space. I guess what is that space? What is that space called? Space? It is called space?
I'm not sure the technical parlance, but I know that it's below the Kármán line. Above the Kármán line is true weightlessness. So atmosphere, or I believe.
Well, you can't breathe. That's one for sure. That's for sure. Thanks for sharing with the audience that information. I definitely would be curious to see what that looks like, and certainly that makes for some great LinkedIn sharing of some posts for sure, and any principles that you want to learn from that. Well, let's get it right into some meat and to think of things. And one of the things I mentioned we're going to be spending some time talking about is best practices around hiring strategies. So first off, let's talk about that, and then I want to go into talking about how to attract and retain the talent that you're looking for. So start with, you've got some coaching that you do and some assistance that you offer to businesses and organizations. We're in 2024 now, and we want to be thinking about how do we hire the A team? The A team, right? This is everybody's goal. So what are some best practices and hiring strategies that could be used and or should be used?
Sure. Well, thank you, Mario. And I like the A team because there's a saying I heard about 5 years ago relative to A-level talent, which every sales leader, sales organization is trying and competing for. A's hire A's, B's hire C's, and C's put you out of business. So what is a hiring process, if one exists? In some of the organizations, the small to medium-sized space defined as, $5 to $25 million companies, the sales leader does not have a vetted, well-constructed, thought-out hiring process. Sometimes he or she develops it themselves, or it's an inherited hiring process, or in concert with HR. But Peter Drucker said about strategy and culture trumps strategy every day. So what is your sales culture? Is it a culture that would attract A players? Is it a micromanagement? How is the compensation relative to the competition? Because compensation drives A players on some level, but it also determines behavior. And in that process, have you thought about a well-constructed, using a baseball analogy, farm system? Specifically what I mean by that, before you bring somebody to the majors, if you're hiring a seasoned sales rep, you bring them into the major leagues. However, if you want to create a great source of A-level talent, maybe start with some colleges and universities. There's 4 or 5 in the U.S. that actually offer a major in sales, Ball State, several others, that you can get a junior or senior major that is focusing on sales. They want to get into sales and can offer them a internship for 1 or 2 years. Then you onboard them, they get to vet you and you get to vet them. Then you can start them in inside sales, promote them up to outside. That's a wonderful way to identify great, relevant sales talent. Try before you buy. They can vet you, you can vet them. Then you hire them. They have a passion and focus to be a sales professional. You can start them as a business development executive or a junior inside rep and promote them to an outside and senior rep. That's one strategy that works incredible. The other 2 benefits to that farm system by aligning yourself with a college or university that has a sales major is, more often than not, that intern can get college credit for that internship. And sometimes they have national, state, local funds to actually help you, the employer, offset the cost of that potential intern. That's some ideas I have on building a process, strategy, and farm system. And then any great sales leader should always be on the lookout for A-level talent, competition, past industries, past roles, past jobs. Because as LinkedIn mentioned, the average shelf life of a corporate sales professional today, how long do you think it is, Mario?
Of a corporate sales executive, meaning a leader, or are you talking about an account executive?
Leader.
Oh, it's 18 months or 22 months. I can't remember which one it is.
18 to 24 months for a sales leader, average shelf life. For a sales rep, about 18 to 36 months. So given that churn in today's very mobile sales space, we have to have a system and we always have to be on the lookout for A-level talent.
Great tips there. I do have a question, though, and that is one of the big areas you focus on was hire somebody, train them up, right? Raise them, raise up a boy, right? Raise up a gal, right? Your child, and help give them newer opportunities as they demonstrate capabilities and understanding and skill set and those types of things. But let's just say I've got to go hire out 5, 6, 10, 20, 100 AEs right now to fill a set of roles that I've got open. How do I go or what are some of the hiring strategies that I can use to find that particular role when I can't basically, groom somebody up into that in that particular role?
Sure. If the college intern grooming to train up and hire up doesn't work, my go-to strategy is establish a strong relationship with a search professional who has demonstrated excellence and expertise in your industry. And you can do a retained search or a contingency. But if you're going to scale and you're looking for 2 senior account executives or 5 to 15, HR and especially a partnership with a search professional can alleviate a lot of headaches and really can find that A-level talent. Simply putting a job post out there on LinkedIn or Indeed really doesn't work. The other thing to find that senior talent, talk to your current senior reps that might have some great connections in the industry. And, they always talk shop internally and externally that they might have some A-level players. And you could also offer a finder's fee. $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 if they refer an A player that you hire and stays for 3 or 6 months. But really establish that relationship with a strong search professional that has demonstrated expertise in your industry and could help you shorten that search cycle.
Got it. Okay, so you found the talent. You got the right A player on the team. You talked a little bit about attracting them and retaining them, which was based upon culture. Let's dive a little more deeply into that. I think a lot of times leaders fail to realize that you're interviewing somebody as much as they're interviewing you. And so what I talk to leaders about all the time is, what does your brand say about you? For example, I met many leaders who have no LinkedIn recommendations. Nobody has ever vouched for them on who they are, what they are, their style, their personality, the good and the bad. Example, if you were to go to mine, I've got 130 recommendations, which about 60 of them are related for employees that have worked for me, right? And in every one of those posts, they're not all good. I actually encourage them to talk about what they see are negatives that some might perceive. Example, I'm a very direct approach guy. I also don't accept mediocrity. The moment you give me the mediocre effort is the moment that I really start drilling in. And also, I'm a highly accountable individual. And so if you say yes, if you say I'll do, if you say no, I won't, I expect your yes to mean yes and your no mean no. And that's where we get into some of those gray areas with individuals. And so some people don't like my direct approach. So a lot of my recommendations talk about, hey, if you want to work for a leader that you'll know at all times where you stand at, good or bad, and you subscribe to the direct approach, then Mario's the guy that you want to work for. But it's not for everyone. I even have people, but put inside there, it's not for everyone, because I want people to know who I am, because I don't accept, I'm uncomfortable with the direct approach, or I'm going to talk to HR because I'm uncomfortable with the direct approach. No. We're going to be very direct. I'll never yell at you. I'll never swear at you. I'll never cuss at you, but you will know at all times where I'm at. And I think a lot of times is leaders forget this, Doug. They forget that attracting great talent requires that you have to brand yourself out there. So I'd love for you to talk about how you think sales leaders can attract and retain great sales talent.
Thank you, Mario. So there's a maxim, a hiring maxim for sales leaders that I ascribe to. What's the true cost of a bad hire? And I try to eliminate that. And my organization and organizations that I've led for global sales teams, we ascribe to top grading. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a HR hiring system developed by one of Jack Welch's, the former CEO of GE's HR leaders. And Jack recognized that they weren't attracting the right type of talent. And when they did, they weren't staying as long as he would have liked them. So one of his HR generals created a top grading system. And I would highly encourage anybody watching this podcast to get the book on top grading. And it really sets a process of, once you have an interested party where there's mutual value on each side from a skills perspective for the candidate, and they see the value to them from a culture, from a challenging position, a great opportunity to grow and potentially upskill and uptrain to become a sales leader. It's following this process and doing a great job in vetting their references. Many companies use a sales assessment tool like Gallup's Challenger or DISC. That's what we use. One component of the hiring process is to take those two assessments. We do not make our final determination on that. It's one piece of it. So, for example, in our organization, we have 2 DISC assessments. They're taken online, a series of 24 questions as it relates to sales, aptitude, personality, leadership skills, and 7 core sales skills that are necessary for sales success. 24 questions, each takes about 20 or 30 minutes, then provides very deep reports and assessments on this candidate. One looks at behaviors, attitudes, and motivators in the context of professional selling and professional leadership. The other looks at, it's called the Sales Skills Index, that looks at 7 key areas of professional selling and sales leadership. Compares and contrasts their unique skills against the population database, 2 million, top 20%. So we take that data. We also do an exhaustive reference check, and we actually talk to these people. As you and I know, they're going to give you their friends, relatives, and, they can game the system a little bit on providing references. But what I look at, I look for consistency of word and deed, especially in their LinkedIn. If there's blocks of time or the dates don't match from one job to the next, and it just seems kludgy, that may not be a red flag, but it might be a yellow flag. So what we do is we look at them online, we do a live or Zoom interview, and then we have them meet other sales team members where we can do a 360 group sort of interview, take that feedback, and do a great job understanding mutual value from the employer and the candidate. We want to ensure that there's a great cultural fit, but also a compensation fit, that our insurance plan, our 401k, stock, everything is at a level that they're happy with. And then the last thing we do, which has been a game changer for us, if everything else vets out, the VP of HR, VP of sales, some of the sales team members, district managers, everybody likes this candidate. The last step is we tell them, thank you, you did a great job. The last step in the hiring process is we want you to create a 5-minute or less video on your phone. It doesn't have to be Star Wars, Disney, and answer these 2 questions. Why do you want to come to work for our organization, and why should we hire you? You would be amazed at how many people, their references vet, LinkedIn, all make sense, they're articulate, and we ask them for that 5-minute or less video, and some, about 15 to 18%, never respond, drop off. Had they done that and it was good, we probably would have extended an offer. If you can't create a 5-minute or less video answering those 2 questions, why do you want to come to work for our organization, and why should we hire you? You shouldn't be in sales, and you shouldn't be a sales leader.
I love that. We use a similar approach. And in fact, if you typed in remote selling, you'll find our article on this. There's a section there in the remote salesperson hiring that we actually have a free, what do we call it? Interview template. And we do something a little bit different, but similar focus. And that is we have a 30-minute panel interview. That 30-minute panel interview is constructed to answer 3 questions. Why you, why the company, and why the product, as if you're talking to the buyer, right? So it requires you to do some research, understand what the buyer pain is. If your website is good enough, you should be able to find those things, or if you've listened good enough, well enough inside of the interviews. And then we have this whole entire slate of panel, and it's surrounding cast members, including those that are going to work with that individual and a supporting cast member. And we have several different criteria that we're looking for on a scale of 1 to 5. And we essentially say, may the best man win. So if it's down to the final 2 candidates and you're kind of torn, you'll be able to see who can perform and who can't, who's lively, who can engage, who can hold a crowd, who can command a crowd. And we tell them to treat it just like a sales meeting. So how do you open it? How do you close it? What are you asking for? Are you asking for the business at the end of the sales call? This is a true sales call, and the product is you. And so it's a very similar approach in terms of what can we see out of this particular. And boy, those that you thought would accelerate didn't, and those that you thought that wouldn't accelerate it show some other qualities that you didn't quite see. It's a great way to do that as well.
That's excellent, Mario. And, two other things I'd like to add is, as you know, the profession of sales is evolving with AI, big data, elastic cloud, 5G, sales enablement. When they get past that 5-minute video, before we extend an offer, we like to understand their level of technical proficiency, Salesforce, sales enablement, CRM, the Office suite of products. And we also like to present to them, and this is another accelerant or game changer, is we show them the sales compensation plan and we show them their unique job scorecard. Most sales teams in the small to medium business space in our consulting experience do not have a detailed job scorecard or a simple 2-page or less sales compensation plan. I've seen 10-page compensation plans, and I know we're going to get to that in a moment, but showing them how they can, what are their KPIs, what's their base, what are the accelerators, and then how will they be measured, judged, and what is required of them.
Well, you brought up a very, very touchy subject, and that is sales compensation plans. They're always complex. In fact, I know for sure that I have a 50-page sales compensation plan that has the nuts and the bolts, the this, the that, and it was completely impossible for you to understand how you were going to make money and for you to calculate anything out, because they had all kinds of different elements based on all these different products. It was a total disaster. But that having been said, what are the elements of a successful sales compensation plan? And I think I know the benefits, but touch on the benefits for the salesperson and the company.
Sure. The first thing, sort of mirroring that example you just shared, if I was a sales rep and A player interviewing for that company and they gave me a 50-page sales compensation plan, there's an old adage: who you are, what you are, speaks so loudly, of course I can't hear what you're saying. I would take that and I would run. If it's that complex, what are the other internal, external processes? Are they that complex? Is it hard to navigate that organization? But I'm a big believer in a simple 2-page or less sales compensation plan that gives the sales representative their base, and you have to have a meaningful, reasonable base. I am not a believer in being a salary man where you pay them a huge base. You give them a base that can keep the lights on. First 3 months, you may want to consider a non-recoverable draw. So if their total annual earning potential was $200,000, they're on a $100K base, and you give them a 3-month non-recoverable draw of another $50,000. So at least that first 3 months, they have enough to pay the bills, diaper the kids, etc. Another huge mistake is trying to get A talent on commission only. Multi-level marketing, or some of these, they pad their post or when they're talking to people. Yeah, you have the opportunity for $300,000 a year. However, there's no support. It's straight commission, no benefits. So if you really want to hire and attract A players, you have to have a reasonable base. Consider a 3 or 6 month non-recoverable draw up to 50% of their base salary that allows them to onboard, understand the industry, navigate the organization, and then that draw ends. And then the next piece of that sales compensation plan, what are the KPIs specifically as it relates to revenue or number of new logos or gross profit, gross margin? Be very succinct what that commission structure is for what elements of selling. And that's what their quota is. If it's $1 million or 2 million, and then anything above that quota, you provide accelerators where they can kill their number and make a lot of money. So that's, in my experience, a sales compensation plan that's easy to understand, 2 pages or less, tells them their base, recoverable or non-recoverable draw. I recommend a non-recoverable draw for 3 or 6 months, depending on the sales cycle and how long it'll take this sales professional to get up to speed. Then the draw stops. Then here is your first year objectives, and this is the commission structure, how much you'll be paid. When you achieve that, you have accelerants, and that's how you motivate and attract A players who are not salary men or women, that are not farmers but are true big game hunters.
Simplistic, easy to understand, and I would add one more thing, Doug, and that is you better tell your salesperson that you're giving them a calculator so that they know as soon as they are looking at a deal and they can start seeing if I sell it for $100,000 versus sell it for $120,000, what that difference looks like in way of compensation. You've got to have that in order to be able to showcase to them the power of what it means to discount and how to sell around those things. Thoughts?
I would agree. And I think the other component to dovetail what you just said is in some sales compensation plans, at the bottom of the second page on the footer, it says, this agreement can be changed with no input from you by the VP of sales or the CEO. If that's in there, I'm probably not going to want to come to work for your company. And I've seen sales compensation plans and employment contracts that have very straightforward, here's your base, here's your draw, here's your KPIs, here are the tranches for accelerators. And a couple of the reps were killing their number and making a lot of money. And the CEO said, they're not going to make that because they're making too much money, sometimes more than the VP of sales or the CEO. If that gets out on the street, you're going to kill your brand and you're not going to attract A players. In an organization and company, nothing happens until somebody sells something. And if you've got very defined KPIs, commissions, gross profit, market, whatever those metrics are, and they adhere to those honestly, ethically, in alignment with their compensation plan and their employment agreement, you should want to write them big checks all the time because the company's making more money as well. I never understood why you'd penalize an A player and penalize them to the point where they say, adios, I'm out of here.
I would say in my 26 years, I don't think I've ever seen a compensation plan that doesn't have the fine print that says the company reserves the right to change this plan at any time. And I know for sure that I've capped out a plan once before and I had to restart the whole plan over again, but they never changed it on me in midway through. So that I don't think I've ever seen a company say that they reserve the right to change this, because it works both pro and con. There's a positive consequence and there could be a bad consequence. The bad consequence is the example that you gave, but the positive consequence could be we're not paying you enough to be able to incentivize you, so we want to change that so that you can add more to that, right? So I think there's a balance there. That's probably the reason why I've always seen it. I personally have never seen it not there. You're saying you've seen plans that have that not inside there?
I've seen plans that have them in there, and that has been a huge red flag for A players that know they can kill this plan. And as a consequence and terms and conditions for them to come and for employment at this company, in one specific case with an A player, the company removed that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, good to know that there have been some plans that are out there. Either way, the point of the matter is whether or not you have it inside there, you don't want to be changing the compensation plan to move the cheese, if you would, away from a seller. That will set them off for sure, and not a good experience. And that's a bad thing that you would see happen. And by the way, as a CEO myself, I hope that I see individuals making more money than me. That is what you are hoping for, right? As the VP of sales, not everybody can be in management, but you decide to go babysit and or coach and or mentor and or whatever you want to call it, whatever role, functional role you've got in leadership. You decided to do that, which means that your compensation is always going to be less than the top performers. And that should be the case inside of any organization. And that's actually in the hiring process. You want to, how many sales reps are making more money than you, Mr. VP of Sales or CRO?
You're exactly right, Mario. And, compensation drives behavior. And one of the cardinal mistakes organizations make when they are looking for a sales leader is, what do? They promote their best rep. Sales leadership skills, some are similar to being a quota killer account executive, but vastly different. And in some organizations that are progressive, some of the top performing sales reps make more than the VP of sales.
And as they should. and as they should. And that's exactly what we want. Now, you mentioned earlier, you started talking about some of the AI and embracing AI and some of the other technologies, big data, cloud, etc. How do you think that's affecting sales leadership today? Some of these digital aspects that really, frankly, leaders should be embracing, but may not be. How is it affecting sales leadership?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, the tsunami of tech that is happening right now, elastic cloud, big data, IoT, AI, and specifically AI if you look at what's happening with open AI and chat GBT, not only that, but also having a incredible CRM tool, if that's Zoho or Salesforce, and a marketing automation tool that's a bolt-on to your CRM. But AI is a game changer. And that's why I had mentioned earlier in the podcast that aside from all the great traits and focus and hunger and honesty and integrity and work ethic you want in a sales leader or an A-playing account executive, is how proficient are they at maneuvering technology in their CRM, marketing automation, sales enablement, and at a basic level, the Microsoft suite of products. But AI is a game changer for sales leader today. And, I recently read a HubSpot article on AI that helps sales leaders automate those manual tasks for their team and themselves. And that frees up a lot of time, those AI chatbots, but it allows those sales leaders, but specifically those sales reps, to redeploy from C and D level tasks to A level tasks. And that is a key component to AI. As you know, AI is going to evolve. It is right now, is like having an AI superhero assistant in terms of how it's helping radiologists not look at them solely, but in concert with a radiologist, and that can crunch that data and find things. It's freeing up multiple half hours per week for sales leaders and sales reps to generate email, buyer personas, a pitch deck. And let me home in specifically on a couple of 3 AI tools. One is ChatGPT, which right now you can subscribe to. It's a token-based system, and it's awesome. We use that for typing in industry challenges. Let's say we're selling an insurance product and we're dealing with the chief risk officer. I would type in sales organizational threats, challenges for a chief risk officer in a major insurance company. Boom, it spits them out. The next search, what are the areas of opportunity to add value to this individual's role? Boom. Next one, write a buyer persona on a chief risk officer at a major insurance company. Boom. Then what you can do, and that gives you some insight beyond search, and it's unbelievable. So we use that all the time. when we're working, training, coaching with sales reps and sales teams to really get some detailed background on the organization. And then, having LinkedIn Premium to send an email if need be, but really to connect with them and do a good job on research and preparation of the company and the individual. The other, I don't know if you're familiar with Tome, Tome. Tome is a great AI PowerPoint generating tool that you can type in the search, and it's free. Type in the search bar with these parameters, create a sales deck on X, and it'll come back, give you royalty-free images, and create probably 50 to 60% of the content. And then I go to DALL-E, DALLE, which you can create some really cool graphics to lay on to that presentation. Those three tools right there can save anywhere from 3 to 5 hours for sales reps each and every week. You can also use it to generate captivating emails and content for a white paper or a position paper.
Great idea there. I'm going to add in Fly Message. The Fly Message AI and what we're doing. In fact, it was interesting. As of right now, through 2023, we helped typed nearly 900 million characters for our customers. 900 million characters. And when I say characters, literally that's typing content out for them, whether it's with AI or through the auto text expander where they don't have to actually type it, they can just deploy a shortcut. And so the benefit, though, that to your point is all about productivity savings, yeah? And on average, our customers were utilizing Fly Message to do LinkedIn engagement. So we've got our Fly Message AI tools that we started rolling out to scale LinkedIn commenting. The big challenge there is a seller or a sales, a BDR or SDR. It takes them on average between 6 to 12 minutes just to engage with a target buyer's post. Why? 1, I have to go to Doug's profile. 2, I have to read all of his posts. 3, I then have to determine which one I'm going to write an intelligent response to. 4, I have to write the response. 5, I have to edit that post and then hit post, right? Or that comment, excuse me. So what we did is we brought AI right into the mix, and now you can actually scale your commenting, and it takes, instead of 6 to 12 minutes, which if you had 50 prospects at 12 minutes a piece, you're sitting at 12 hours. If I'm 50% wrong and it's taking 6 minutes, you're sitting at 6 hours, right? So now you can do that in less than 2 minutes in terms of engagements. Now we can really talk about scaling it, and that is huge. Even if the AI is wrong, say 50% wrong, we still got you 50% closer to than where you were. And that is productivity savings. That's the point, right? And so I think people need to understand that AI is here. It is not leaving, and you need to find a way to embrace it. And if you aren't using it and saying, hey, go figure out how to do this, or go work with AI. No. You get into it. You use Fly Message as an example. You write your thought leadership post, which, by the way, we have what's called Fly Posts. You can click on Start a Post, put in a topic, and the AI will write it right there inside of LinkedIn for you, right? So with that in mind, I think that's one of the key things is being able to engage correctly and to use AI and then look for the productivity savings. Not just does it do the job. And here's where I really get frustrated at with reps and leaders. Oh, the AI is not good. Why? Well, I don't like that comment. Okay, got it. Let me ask you this question. Before this product, what did you do? Well, I would just like a post. So you mean you didn't comment at all? Right. So with this comment, could you edit it? Well, yeah, but I don't want to sit here and edit it. Right, because you've got dummy on your forehead. Now, let's think about this. Hold on. Even if I got you 50% better with ChatGPT or Fly Message or you fill in the blank, is that better than where you were? And that's one of the struggles that I see, Doug, that's out there is we're looking, AI should not replace the seller's thinking. It should augment the seller. Otherwise, go out and get an AI bot to do all the sales and engagement. I don't need you to make phone calls. I could use a bot to do that. I don't need you to send emails through SalesLoft, Apollo, Outreach. I can use AI to do that, and I can put it through a spray and pray approach into that. I don't need you to go out there and do a LinkedIn engagement because I can have an automatic bot that opens up all my target profiles, customers, write a response and hit post and automate that. I could do that. I could build that technology stack and avoid a salesperson. But what you're missing is the contextual relevance, the humanization of engagement. And that's where a lot of sales leaders and sales reps are going awry at, is new technology. It doesn't work for me, but wait a minute. You really forgot about what it really should do. And that is to augment you, not replace you.
I totally agree. And there's some great pearls that you just shared with the listeners. It has to be added to their sales excellence, skills, and focus. It doesn't replace that. It augments or supports that. And, I use the Flintstones and the Jetsons. We can't sell as Fred Flintstone anymore. We're George Jetson. And AI is in support to allow us to get more FaceTime, email time, phone time, Zoom times. That's the only time we make money, and when the intimacy and the true value exchange happens. Now, COVID, post-COVID, it's been nuanced by more video conferencing. But get face-to-face, get belt buckle to belt buckle, because that's where the intimacy, the magic, the value happens. And AI is in support of getting you to claw back to automating some of those time sucks that used to take time away from getting belly to belly. And the other thing is that by utilizing your technology and the other great content that you have, this podcast, is it allows sales reps and sales leaders to not simply go with intuition. Everything is data-driven and a data-driven decision-making. AI, CRM, your marketing automation tool, look at that data in concert with gut and intuition. That's what great sales leaders are doing today. And that helps them improve line of sights into a small problem, performance problem, before it gets to a big one where you put them on a personal development plan or walk them off the door. But those predictive analytics that automates those mundane tasks and provides insights that were previously hard to obtain. And it increases efficiency, sales performance. It enhances the messaging and communication with AI. It allows for real-time customer segmentation. And all those things affect the bottom line and the closing rate, because they're able to really understand this technology as a sales leader. But more importantly, how do I roll this out to my sales team so they can claw back hours to get more live meetings, Teams, Zoom, that drive appointments, that drive meaningful conversations for mutual exchange of values, for proposals, for closures, top line, bottom line number.
Love it. Great piece of advice. I would also say, I won't put this into the show notes, but we've got several resources that are available. In fact, on Vingresso, we have the 100 of the best chat GPT prompts that are out there that we've created or we've added to that. And we found, we've created this list. And then we also have the best LinkedIn chat GPT prompts as well. So those are two resources. We'll put that in the show notes for anybody listening in. And Doug, we're coming up on time here, but a question for you. If someone wants to connect with you, if they want to engage with you, what's the best way to do that? Is that through your website, through LinkedIn, Twitter?
LinkedIn, but actually the best, reach out to me direct. Doug at DougDvorak.com, DOUG at DOUGDVORAK.com. The website is salescoach.us. My phone number is 847-359-6969.
Fantastic. And when you reach out to Doug on LinkedIn, please make sure you tell him that you heard him on the Modern Selling podcast. Do not send a blind connection request. Take the time to make sure that you reach out and authentically and uniquely engage. Doug, I have one last final question, and that is your all-time favorite movie. What is it?
For a guy in sales, Glenn Ross. All-time favorite movie. I connected with it.
We've had that one before on the show, but all of you listening in right now, hey, make sure you download flymsg.io right now and save 1 hour a day. And don't turn that dial quite yet. I've got this important message for you right now. Thanks for listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Please do me a huge favor and give the Modern Selling Podcast a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Oh, and don't forget, if you'd like to save 20 hours or more in a month and increase your productivity, go right now and download FlyMessage, that's flymsg.io, for free. It's your free text expander and personal writing assistant. Hey, thanks for listening in, and until the next episode, good selling.